Hey, welcome everybody. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe right now to my YouTube channel. I need you to do this. There's too much information and too much knowledge that I want to share with you that is actually packed into our YouTube channel. Hey, today, if you're in the rental market and looking for rentals and getting a little frustrated, stay tuned because I'm going to have an open conversation with Jane Townsend, my daughter, about that. So hang in there. Okay, everybody. All right, so the other night I was hanging out with my daughter Jane, and she kind of like mentioned that, well, tell me what you asked me, Jane.
Yes, I just graduated college.
Yep.
I have student debt, and I want to move out, but rent is ridiculous, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, so join the club. I know it's frustrating, and I have this conversation a lot with folks that are frustrated. Just to give you an idea, here in Cherokee, and I don't know where everybody's watching from, but right here in the North Atlanta area, market area, you got a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath house in our market area, which isn't it doesn't have to be huge, 1,800 square foot. I mean, you're paying like $2,000, up to $2,000 a month in rent.
At least.
And that's not an apartment, that's a house, but a nice apartment complex right now, 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment complex. I think they're going for like, $1,400 a month, something like that.
For a decent one.
For a nice one.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I understand the pain and the agony. I've talked to a lot of people that are like, we're thinking about actually buying a house and renting it to our kids, right?
Yeah.
So there's some other, things you got to be careful with that. I don't recommend that. If the kids can't afford it, then you don't want to get financially wrapped into that. But so that's a whole other conversation. And so some of that conversation gets frustrating.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, this is the conversation that Jane and I kind of got into the other day, and I've been having a lot with other people that are in that rental market. You need to understand, it's all about supply and demand, right? And right now there is very high demand, not the highest we've ever seen, but a very high demand. And the supply is at all-time lows, not necessarily in rental, but also in housing. And that is a direct reflection of supply and demand. And there's a lot of factors that go into what is causing this imbalance of supply and demand. So one of the things is that the last quite a few years, we've had this huge shortage of housing in our area, and really across the nation, but in our area. And that is a direct reflection or result of the Great Recession that we went through. New construction is like, way behind the eight ball. And so we have this huge lack of new housing in the market. Believe it or not, with all the construction that we see going on, we still see that lack. So you got that, you've got historical low interest rates, which is only going to increase people's buying power, which increases pricing. You got construction costs lately that have been going through the roof. That's pretty much been because of the pandemic. And a lot of manufacturing of products has actually been shut down. So that's their own little supply and demand thing that's going on, right? So construction costs are going way up. And then you've got an area here north of Atlanta that is just booming. It's growing. So you've got all those factors that are piling in and making it extremely competitive and depleting our rental property. So it has nothing to do with a bunch of companies out there and people out there taking advantage of it. It is all about supply and demand. The market dictates pricing. Companies don't, I don't, agents don't, appraisers don't, bankers don't. The market dictates pricing, and it's all based off of the law of supply and demand. The other thing is that we see is people are reluctant to put their houses on the market. Okay, for another variety of reasons. I talked about that in one of my other videos. So watch that one of why people aren't selling right now. So that would be kind of insightful. But that's another major factor in that. So it's tough if you're a renter.
So what do you suggest us 20-year-olds who just graduated college, have no money? What do we do?
Keep working hard. I know. Take advantage of, a lot of people like yourself are living at home, right? And we love having you home.
Love being home.
So just stockpile your money. So I'll can I share what our plan is with you? No, I'm in the business. So my plan is I want Jane to save as much money as she possibly can, which she's doing, but you're buying a house. Mm-hmm. We're going to get her into a house as soon as we possibly can. Open up your mind to the fact that you can buy. Don't worry about this. Everybody's worried about a bubble and a crash, so on and so forth. Buy a house, get into a house. Open your mind to the fact that you may have to get a roommate in order to afford the mortgage payment, but that's kind of what the plan is for us anyway. So Open your mind to that. It is obtainable, but you're going to have a little discipline here to begin with to save up some cash and save up some money, and in order to be able to do that.
How much money should we save up?
That is a great question for you, your agent, and a lender to have. It is not a blanket answer, okay? However, just understand the old rule, and I still hear this all the time, you have to have 20% down. That's not true. You can get into a house for as little as 3% down. Now, there's a lot of factors involved with that, okay, and some risks involved with that. However, it can be done. So don't think that you need to have 20% down in order to get into a house.
Okay.
All right.
So I have a ton of student debt. Am I still going to be able to get a loan?
Yeah, great question. That's also a conversation that you're going to have with your lender. So there are restrictions and rules that the government has implied. Mm-hmm. So when a lender looks at your credit and your debts that you have, that's going to be one of the factors they look at. But they cap it at a certain dollar amount. Mm-hmm. So they don't look at it as a whole. It's an incentive from the government because they know so many people have student loan debt. Mm-hmm. I can't remember what that number is. It changes periodically. It's not something that I look at on a daily basis. But if you get with a lender, they'll be able to tell you, you don't have to consider your student loan debt, or they only have to consider so much of it, all right? And that would go against your income. So anyways, that's a conversation for your lender.
Okay.
And your agent, right? We all get together and have those conversations.
Yes. Okay.
So what else you got?
That's all I got.
All right, that's it. Hopefully that helped explain to you the rental market. Look at buying a house. I mean, if you're really that disappointed, I know it may be short term. You don't want to put your roots down or anything like that, but I'm telling you, it's going to be your best bet, in my opinion anyway. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that was helpful, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Thanks.